Hey, good evening, everybody. Getting ready for the showdown tomorrow in New Orleans. The Kings and the Pelicans, 48 minutes. The winner goes on to play Oklahoma City in Game 1 on Monday. The loser is done for the year. We know no Zion Williamson for New Orleans. We also know the Pelicans beat the Kings earlier in the year by, 33 points without Zion. What's interesting to me about that game is Brandon Ingram did not really play that well in that game, and they still destroyed Sacramento. The Pelicans in their first 2 wins against the Kings this year did not have C.J. McCollum. Then, of course, in the last game, they didn't have Brandon Ingram. And it doesn't seem to matter who they have on the floor or don't have on the floor. But I think the Kings are going to play very well tomorrow. Even though they've lost all 5 meetings this year with the Pelicans, I think they're going to play very well. I really do. In a moment, we will have Ryan in Sacktown. And then a little bit later in the show, Jerry Reynolds is expected to join us. Give me your messages, and we will roll and have a lot of fun on this. But I think the Kings are going to play well tomorrow. And to me, the key for tomorrow's game is how well will Brandon Ingram play. If he plays the way he played against the Lakers in the first play-in game, I think the Kings will win. If Brandon Ingram plays well, I think the Pelicans will win. Ryan in Sacktown. Here we go, man. You know what? I've been looking at all the box scores leading up to this show, and they're very puzzling to me. Because in the first 2 wins, the Pelicans didn't have C.J. McCollum. Then they didn't have Zion Williamson, and they still destroyed Sacramento. And Brandon Ingram only had, I think, like 15 points in that game. Then in the last game that they played, just last week, there was no Brandon Ingram. And New Orleans still put over 130 on the board. So it's very puzzling to me, Ryan. It really is.
Grant, I rewatched 2 of the games. I've rewatched all of the games in the short form. Here's my answer. They've had some good individual performances. We know that. In the 5 meetings, the Pelicans have not felt the Kings this season in terms of physicality. The Pelicans slip screens. The Kings aren't, getting over screens. They've just dominated. And Grant, the Pelicans are not a physical team outside of Zion Williamson.
No, they're not. They're not. They're a finesse team. And the one thing that's really impressed me in looking at these games is the ball movement and how quickly the Pelicans move the ball around the perimeter to get the shot that they want. But I'm with you. I think this extra day is good for Sacramento. I think Mike Brown now has got a 5-game sample size with Keon Ellis, with Davion Mitchell being, very much part of the nucleus now, which they really weren't with the exception of the last game. The previous 4 games, they really weren't for the most part. So, I wonder where the Pelicans' confidence level is right now without Zion Williamson. They know they're not going to have him, even if they win tomorrow in the first round against the Thunder. And they also know how important he is. Now, Jerry made a good point when we had him on yesterday, Ryan. The Pelicans have played many, many, many games without Zion Williamson. They know how to play without Zion. They've done it for, several years now, but particularly even in the games missed this year and last year, they know how to play without him.
Grant, you just got to know where they're going to go. The stat to me last game that was inexcusable was Zion was the main distributor for them, regardless of him playing a little bit dinged up. Not only does C.J. McCollum have 31, he had 7 assists, Grant. Yep. He was doing everything. So with Zion out, the next guy in assists was Trey Murphy, Zion and then Trey. So who's going to do it for him this game? And I think if the Kings really put a focus like they did on Steph Curry on CJ McCollum, I think you could really choke that Pelicans team up a little bit offensively.
Yeah, I'm with you. Cody makes a great point. New season, 0-0 versus New Orleans. 100% correct. The regular season doesn't mean anything right now. It just doesn't. It's 48 minutes. Who wants it the most? The Pelicans don't have a great home court. The crowd's not going to be a factor. When I mean it's not going to be a factor, it's not like playing in a lot of other venues. Yeah. They might be full, but it's not. It's just different. Trust me. I don't think that's going to be an issue. The issue to me is going to be what Ryan just said. Are they going to be able to bottle up and contain C.J. McCollum? I think it starts right there. I can't expect, Ryan, Brandon Ingram to be 100% tomorrow. I just can't.
No. And Grant, I think Vegas knows something we don't, because even with Zion out, the way that line opened, that tells me something else might be going, and that's Brandon Ingram. He's just coming back from an injury. It takes time to assimilate. So if you...
What's the line?
It started out at 1.5. And it was actually at one time in favor of the Kings at one early time. So here's the deal. I think that the Kings need to take advantage of that. We talked about the physicality. Get him physicaled up, make him feel you. Mike Brown talked about that, and he also kind of talked about the other little things on defense. Here's what he had to say at practice.
Showing your hands and not hacking and sending them to the free throw line. Those are all areas, the turnover game, the free throw line game, and the offensive rebounding game. Those are all areas that you have more control over than whether or not the ball goes in.
And he was talking about the controllables. And Grant, when the Kings control the controllables, especially on defense, they usually play well.
Very much so. And, New Orleans is not a good team at home. They're probably a lot like Sacramento, where they wouldn't mind being on the road. They were only 21-19 on their home floor this year. Think about that.
There's not, you've already said it, not much of an advantage. And Grant, I know you've talked to people. I've talked to people in the building. Grant, I'm getting a very, very quiet confidence from this group right now. I think they can sneak up on this team and get into the 7-game series against Oklahoma City. And what's your mindset if you're the Pelicans, Grant? I mean, you go from should be the 6 seed to possibly out of the playoffs altogether.
Yeah. It would be a disaster for New Orleans. It really would, because after beating Sacramento and Golden State in back-to-back games last week, they had the table set perfectly. All they had to do was win at home against the Lakers, and they lost. And then they had to play them again. And I think if Zion Williamson doesn't get hurt in that game, I think they would have beat the Lakers. But I think the table is set just perfectly for Sacramento right now. I think the Pelicans got to be a little shook. They know they don't play well at home. They know they don't have Zion. And I just think that if the Kings get off to a really good start tomorrow, I think they can control the game. I really do.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Grant. And Mike Brown, that we're talking about momentum, Mike Brown was asked about how he thought they played against the Warriors, and was it the best all-around performance in terms of physicality? Here's what he had to say.
Golden State, I thought it showed throughout most of the game. It was about as complete a game as we've had on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to the 48-minute mark than any other time we stepped out on the floor.
You agree?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I'm with him. They did the little things. And speaking of the little things, we got a big thing that just showed up here, I think.
Yeah, we got Jerry Reynolds. Jerry, so nice of you to join us here as we preview this game. A couple of things that Ryan and I were just talking about is I think the Kings are going to play very well tomorrow, and the Pelicans are not a good home team. They were only 21-19. They had the table set perfectly. All they had to do was win one game against the Lakers. They lost both. They lost Zion Williamson. I just feel if the Kings get off to a really good start tomorrow, Jerry, I think they can control this game. I really do.
Well, I think they can win the ball game. I think a real key for me is going to be, will Brandon Ingram look like Brandon Ingram?
Yes.
Or what he looked like the last game. And I'd be surprised if he can be really effective. I'm sure he'll be better than he was, but a lot of rust, missing 4 weeks or whatever. And then, the defense that the Kings guards put on Steph Curry, if they can do that with McCollum, and McCollum is not as good as Curry, but to really press him and make him work to get any kind of shot, I think that will be a real key because, he and without Zion, he and Ingram are their only two really shot creators that can beat people off the dribble and make plays. The rest of the guys, Murphy, terrific player, spot-up shooter, that sort of thing. So I think the Kings defensively have got to do a job on those guys, and I think they can. I think they've got the guys to do it.
Appreciate the Super Chat donation. What are your keys to the game that will help the Kings win? Jerry just went over some of the keys. I think McCollum, containing him is a key. I'm with you guys. I mean, listen, we watched the NBA for many, many years. Guys just don't come back from an injury like Brandon Ingram and get to be where they were for a while. So could he be effective? Yeah, he could be effective. He could be, but I don't think he's going to be the Brandon Ingram that we're accustomed to seeing when he's right. I just think it's called common sense. And common sense tells me that, he might score 15 points. He might be on the floor for 25 or 30 minutes, but I don't see him being the Brandon Ingram that he was before. And quite frankly, in a game of this magnitude with the Kings playing well, which I think they will, I don't know if New Orleans can beat Sacramento without Zion Williamson and a average Brandon Ingram. I really don't.
Well, I think they've got to have. I mean, in other words, I would agree because I think with Ingram, he's a guy that can get 40 points when he's at his best, but there's no reason to expect that. And McCollum, of course, the Lakers really shut him down, or he shut himself down a little bit.
Yes,
pretty much like Klay Thompson, that just missed a lot of shots. But the Kings, I like to say, I think defensively, I think they can make it tough on those two guys. That's the good news. The bad news, they've got a guy, Herb Jones, that can guard anybody the Kings have. I mean, he's Tony Allen 2024 version.
That's a great point. Talk more about that because we haven't even mentioned his name, and I think you're spot on about that.
Yeah, well, Herb Jones is just a great defender. He 6'7" or whatever he is, long, athletic, can guard point guards, two guards, small forwards, power forwards, probably everybody but the center. And really, he could probably guard Domas because he's not that much smaller. But so he's a real wild card. I worry, that say they put him on Keegan, he might take Keegan out of the game. He's capable. And so that's a lot of firepower. Or, at times I'm sure that they'll have him on Fox occasionally, and he can make it very difficult. So, that part does worry me. And then their other little wild card is Alvarado. He has been a real nemesis for Fox. I mean, he's not as fast as De'Aaron, but he's every bit as quick. And he's just been a real little pain in the ass. And so that those two guys, I think everybody else, it's okay. It's like Murphy's a terrific shooter, but you don't have to leave him. Valanciunas is a very good center and does give Domas more trouble than most because he knows his game and he's big and strong. Domas can't really bully him and overpower him.
Yeah, Jerry, I think it's a great point, but the points that you're making and how the Kings can maybe combat those, I think they go both ways. Herb Jones turned the ball over 3 times last game against the Kings, so put some pressure on him as well, because like you said, the pressure is going to be on them to create shots. That's going to be something different that they haven't had in the last couple matchups.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I think that will be the ultimate key for the Kings is how much ball pressure they can put on them. They need to start working. I mean, McCollum's an older guard, so really start pressuring him, like they did Curry, pick him up before he gets to half court, turn him, work him, throw doubles at him occasionally, and the same, and Ingram certainly work him. I think, that because Herb is not a great offensive player. He's certainly an excellent defender. Again, the Tony Allen comparison. But I like the Kings' chances, but I just want to make people aware that there's a reason that they won 49 games.
Yes. Yes, it wasn't by accident, that's for sure. Hey, I want to tell you about New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. All you need to do is go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. They're available 24/7. That's New Works Plumbing, sackserviceplumbing.com. They've got a fix for you. We're also brought to you by Bennett's Restaurants, 3 locations, including the West Side Grill in Rockland. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com to check out the menu, make a reservation, and more. Prime seafood and steak at Bennett's. Again, Sacramento, Roseville, and the West Side Grill at the Blue Oaks Town Center in Rockland. We are talking Kings and Pelicans, getting ready for the showdown tomorrow. We'll have the pregame. Ryan and Sacktown will have that 30 minutes before tip. We'll all be back at halftime. And then the postgame show, and hopefully we'll be talking about the Kings on the way to OKC to take on a Thunder team. But first things first, the Kings are going to have to do something they have not been able to do this year, and that's beat New Orleans. And what's so interesting and puzzling to me about this matchup is that the Pelicans have had one key player out in every meeting against Sacramento this year. And so that tells me that even when they're shorthanded, and Jerry's right, there's a reason why they won 49 games. They're just not Zion Williamson. They're just not C.J. McCollum. They're just not Brandon Ingram. When they miss one of those players, they still have been able to control the game against Sacramento. So keep that in mind when you look at this game. The Pelicans, and Jerry made this point yesterday, I thought he was spot on. This team knows how to play without Zion because they've had to do it a lot, Jerry. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, he and Ingram both. I mean, they've been out periodically for long periods of times. I mean, it's one of those things where Zion has missed about as many games as he's played, and Ingram, not as much. But so, yeah, and they've got a good bench. They've got some guys that can play off the bench. They've been a tough matchup, I think, for the Kings as opposed to the Lakers. The Lakers were just too big and strong for them, and
Yep.
just overpowered them, I thought. And the Kings certainly can't do that. And the length of their wings and all has been a real problem for the Kings. I'm hopeful that the Kings have learned something from it. I know that game, the last game, the Kings, I don't know why, but they had Harrison Barnes on Valanciunas and double teamed him. And I don't know why they double teamed Valanciunas. I mean, he's a good player, but then that really got the Kings in a huge hole. And really from that point on, that was kind of the game almost.
Jerry, you know what separates? It's funny you bring up the Pelicans and the Lakers because I rewatched that game and the Lakers did really good in transition against the Pelicans. But what separates the Pelicans and the Lakers matchup wise for the Kings is the Pelicans are so much better in transition. They're so much quicker and they're way more explosive. And to me, if you watch that game back, the Pelicans came back in literally almost about 2 minutes in that fourth quarter after playing really bad. So it's also one of those things where you can't let your foot off the pedal, and it goes without saying.
Yeah, it always goes back to transition offense. In other words, against the Kings, they've been able to stop the Kings, make it tough scoring, and so they're in transition a lot. And they're terrific that way. The Lakers, the reason they beat them is they had their moments, but the Lakers were good enough in the half court that they really couldn't get out the open transition opportunities near as often, other than Zion just creating points.
Right.
He was doing a great job just creating. And I don't know if we talked about this the other day, but I mean, that was one of the most amazing plays I've ever seen when LeBron James took a charge on Zion.
Yeah, we did.
And Zion knocked him around like a rag doll, which that's never happened to LeBron James.
We did.
Brian, you bring a good point up, and I think that's why the Kings were 4-0 against the Lakers this year. The Lakers just they can't run with the Kings. They're not athletic enough to play with the Kings, whereas the Pelicans are just the opposite. So I think that, that's not an accident that the Kings were 4-0 against the Lakers this year and 0-5 against the Pelicans. And we talk about matchups. We talk about style of play. The Pelican style of play is going to give the Kings a lot more trouble than the Lakers style of play.
Yeah, no doubt.
I agree. And I'll tell you something else. I think both the Pelicans or the Kings will be a scary matchup for Oklahoma City.
Yes, sir. And Mike Brown was actually asked, how is the game going to be a little bit different without Zion? And you mentioned some of the things. Want to get your guys' thoughts on this.
It's not going to be bully ball as much, but we have to get to the three-point shooters. We have to take care of the ball. We have to find these guys in transition, especially behind the arc.
Jerry, the three-point line's been a big issue in all 5 meetings. What do the Kings do different?
Well, that hits. I mean, we don't leave good three-point shooters to help out or to fake help out. In other words, Trey Murphy, if you leave him to go help on somebody, if there's no, you better go and really give help, not just go halfway. And we saw him leave Murphy, McCollum. I mean, I think those two guys, whoever's defending them, stay home. Let somebody else help. You stay home on those guys.
Well, it should be a heck of a game, and we're looking forward to it. And don't forget, we'll have all the coverage right here on If You Don't Like That. I will be surprised if we're talking tomorrow night after the game and we're talking about the Kings didn't play well. I just can't see a scenario where the Kings don't play well. I'm not saying that's going to be good enough to win, but Ryan, I'll be surprised if the Kings don't play well. I think they're very confident coming into this game despite being 0-5. Let's face it, it's a big break not having Zion Williamson. I don't think any of us would be saying that we were as optimistic if Zion Williamson had not injured himself. I don't know about you, but I would say, not going to happen. I think he is just an impossible cover. I don't think you can guard the guy. I think he creates too many problems. But I just think without him, the door is wide open, Rhino.
Yeah, the door's completely open, and I think you lay it out really well because the Kings may have an opportunity to really shell shock this team right out of the gate because
Yep.
you're not going to have the crowd that's going to bring you back into it in New Orleans, as you've referenced. So I like the mindset of this team right now. Jerry, are you sensing any quiet optimism, confidence with the way they've played the last couple of games or the last week?
Well, they should be. I think certainly Kings played a really good game. That they certainly went into the play-in not on the best of terms, maybe, but then so the Pelicans the same, and so I like where the Kings are. I'm like Grant there. I think they'll play a really good game. I think it's going to be close, but I really do think they'll win the ball game. But I think several things have to happen. I mean, between Ellis, Barnes, and Keegan. You're not going to get 64 5 points like you did the last game.
No, you're not.
But you have to have 50. You're going to have 50 because you're just not going to get it from the bench. And I think Domas and Fox, played pretty much an average game for both of them. And they both have got to be better than average. They don't have to be spectacular, but they've got to be better than average.
Jerry, that was one of the points I wrote down in my prep. De'Aaron only averaging 21.2 points and Domas 18.8 in the 5 meetings. That's well below both of their averages.
That's not gonna get it done.
No, I mean, and certainly they're going to. I mean, they don't have the bench that you'd like, and so the starters are going to have to play huge minutes, 38, 39 minutes apiece, Which is fine. They're able to do that.
The timeouts are longer on this national TV game, so that I don't think that's a factor. I really don't.
I don't either. I think it works to their advantage, if anything. I mean, keep your best players on the floor. In this case, well, all this works toward helping you keep your best players on the floor.
Yeah.
And maybe the last thing would be Domas has to stay out of foul trouble.
Yes.
And it's going to be tough because they're going to go at him trying to get him in trouble.
Yeah, I would double down on that and say we haven't seen a big game from Trey Lyles in a while. The Kings could use a big night from him, and he could easily break out in a game like this if it's up tempo.
Oh, I agree. I mean, and they need more from him. I mean, that's for sure. He and Davion are the two reserves that you need production from both. I mean, so a lot of things have to fall in place, but don't know why they can't. Can't.
Lyles to me has not been the same player also coming back from his injury that we saw before. And that's, again, I'm not comparing his injury to Brandon Ingram, but what I am saying is I don't have a crystal ball any more than you guys do, but I'll be really surprised if we're on the air here tomorrow night talking about a really good game from Brandon Ingram. I think he can play well, but I don't think he's going to be able to take over the game. I don't think he's going to be able to be that guy that we've seen in the past that just kills the Kings. So, again, I like the way the table is set. I think this game boils down to De'Aaron Fox. And you just said, Ryan, you just mentioned his numbers. This is the type of a game where you need your franchise player, your max player, to be the guy. And I'm expecting De'Aaron Fox to have an A to A+ game tomorrow. And I'll just say right now, if he does not, I think the Kings will lose. I think if De'Aaron Fox plays an A to an A+ game, the Kings will win. And if he doesn't, they'll lose. I think it really, we can talk about all of these matchups. They have to have De'Aaron Fox playing at an elite level tomorrow to win this game.
I agree with that. I mean, I think, he's going to need to take 24 shots, pretty much like he did against Golden State, except though you're going to have to get more than 24 points. You're going to have to get about 32, 34 points out of that number of shots. Now, I think with Domas, I think basically he's going to do what he does. He's going to take 12 shots, score 19 points, get 12 rebounds, get 8 assists. That's who he is. And he's been that way for 5 years. But that's a strength. I mean, that's really productive. What you need is that kind of production, 19 points on 12 shots from several other guys.
No doubt at all, Jerry. What do you think? Who's the X factor for the Kings coming into this outside of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis?
I think it's Keegan Murray. You can't expect 32 points necessarily, but I think with Keegan, he's so important defensively as well. It's really remarkable. A second-year player is a key defender as well as, can score a big. So I think he's the X factor. I mean, certainly Keon Ellis, he's a great defender, and if he'll take and make open shots. And I might even say, Barnes might even be more important because he's a guy when he does score, the Kings win.
So a really good point. Gold Country Veterinary Hospital, they are a full-service veterinary hospital, dentistry, surgery. They do it all. And the bottom line is when your pet needs to be seen, when they need urgent care, Gold Country Veterinary Hospital will be available. They are in Auburn. They serve the foothills, Roseville, the greater Sacramento area. They have the latest technology. They have the most up-to-date pain protocols for faster recovery. Again, whether it's dentistry, surgery, whether it's, orthopedic, whether ACL, emergencies, they do it all. Gold Country Veterinary Hospital in Auburn. Also brought to you by Paws or Fosters and Paws. Fosters and Paws, they are a group of passionate animal advocates. They do many great things. They work primarily with dogs and shelters. They're also phenomenal with families, and they teach young people the lifelong benefits of having a pet. And there are puppies available for adoption. They're looking for donors, fosters. They're looking for adopters. All you need to do is go to fostersandpaws.org/adopt. That's fostersandpaws.org/adopt. Well, we are one day away from this matchup in NOLA, the Kings and the Pelicans. Let's peek ahead a little bit. Jerry, you made a comment about 10, 15 minutes ago that you think the winner of this game will actually have a pretty good chance against Oklahoma City. Why do you feel that way?
Well, I think Oklahoma City, is a little easier to match up for both these teams. Oklahoma City, and they're terrific. Don't get me wrong. They deserve everything they've got. They'll have the best player in the series, whoever. The guy said Gilgeous-Alexander, but I just think they're, for the Kings and the Pelicans, I think you can match up with them pretty good. And the Kings are a little more experienced playoff wise. I think, New Orleans is similar. They haven't had as good a year, but if they were totally healthy with all their best players healthy, I think they're more talented than Oklahoma City. So I think it's a credit to them and Gilgeous-Alexander and their coach. To me, they've gotten more mileage out of their talent than probably any team in the West.
Yep. I also think that if the Kings are able to win tomorrow, I think they can take home court advantage away in game one. I just think 8 days off is too much at this juncture of the season. If I'm Oklahoma City, that's a long time to be waiting to play a game. So I actually think they're going to come out and be a little rusty. So I think the winner of tomorrow's game actually would have a decent chance of going there and stealing game one. But first things first, you got to win tomorrow. But I'll tell you one thing: sign me up for a long series watching Fox go against SGA. That's going to be that's going to be really fun basketball to watch if that's the scenario.
It sure would. As cheap as I am, I might pay for that.
and also for Fox, talk about the opportunity. Is he in between superstar, star? You take out the guy who could be the MVP this year and outplay him at the point guard position. It's a heck of a way to do it.
Great point. It vaults Fox into national. It would. In other words, on the national stage. So, that's what you're hoping for.
I don't think we'll get to this in a second. I don't think he can outplay SGA. Rhino, what do we got there, buddy?
Sorry, that popped up by accident. Fixing the screen for us. I was playing with the buttons.
Oh, okay. Well, what do we do have an auction that we want to tell people about, right? Are we ready to do? Is it ready to go or not yet?
Yeah. You know what? They can. Why don't you talk? I'll pull it up for you.
All right. So basically, we showed you the T-shirts from the late 80s. Jerry Reynolds, Wayman Tisdale, Larry Bird with their autographs on there. And we're auctioning off that. And if you go to my website, if you don't like that.com or grantnapier.com, all the information is on there. There's the QR code. Again, just register to bid. And there are the shirts that Ryan is putting up on the screen. We also have some perks to go along with that, such as golf at Valley High, a digital experience with me. We've got a meal at Bennett's. So we got a couple of different things in addition to the shirts that are going to be framed, by the way.
Yes.
But again, Tisdale, we got Larry Bird from when he was in studio doing a show with us on the Jerry Reynolds Show. And again, my thanks to Mark Cholis, a former colleague at Channel 31 for helping us out with these shirts. I greatly appreciate Mark, and he was a great coworker when I was at Channel 31 for the years. But all you need to do is check out my website, ifyoudon'tlikethat.com or grantnapier.com, and the auction is underway, and good luck.
Yep, the auction just opened up. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Grant at his email, gnapier@gmail.com. You can hit me up at rhinoinsacktown@gmail.com. And you obviously have our X accounts. You can call Jerry at never mind.
G Napier, there it is, gnapier@gmail.com, and there's Ryan's email. So we're there. And Jerry, I'm not going to put your number up on the screen. Don't worry, buddy.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah, would not do that to our buddy.
No problem. No problem. Ryan, I haven't yet looked at the website. Do they have to go to the shop, or is it going to come up as soon as they go to the website? Do they have to click on the shop?
No, so you're going to click on the auction tab. So if you just go to the menu, and then there's a nice little intro video from Grant that you can listen to. And then we're using a third party, as you saw, for the auction.
Yep.
And I just want to add this. We don't usually do things like this too often. We don't usually ask for super chats or charge for comments.
No.
But once in a while, we do want to do things for the channel. And it's not because we want to do anything nice. We want to do better things for you. Look at how we've improved this season with calls and upgrading technology. We're going to do that all over again. So we would greatly appreciate your help. And we so appreciate all your support before this and up until this point.
Amen. Very well said. Somebody just said it's not easy to navigate. So I'm going to go to my phone and do it right now. And, well, I'm sorry. It's very easy to me. I just clicked right on the auction. So just bear with us and try to do it. All right. So, what's the biggest, we've talked about the things that have to happen. Jerry, I'm going to start with you. What's the biggest concern that you have from the Kings' perspective going into this game?
Well, that they'll keep the defensive intensity. I mean, they have got to come out of the gate establishing, like they did against the Warriors, that they're going to guard you all 48 minutes. That needs to be from the very first possession, that we're going to see ball pressure everywhere.
For me, it's identifying the different defenses that New Orleans is going to throw at you. They will hit you with a zone out of the blue. The Kings don't always get to the middle, but when the Kings do identify Jerry and Grant, they can break the zone pretty well. All
right. Thank you for all that. We'll help you with this. All right. Bear with us. We're going to walk you through this in just a little bit. Okay. So just hang on with us. Okay. I think the biggest issue for the Kings in this game, I don't think they can win this game. I think Jerry hit on this, and I think, Ryan, you must have mentioned this earlier too. Domantas Sabonis has to stay out of foul trouble tomorrow. I mean, if he's in foul trouble, that's going to really make life difficult for Sacramento. I think the way the game is called and Sabonis not getting a ticky-tack foul or two, which limits him, I think that's going to be really key, because I think the Kings are going to play very well. I think they have a really good chance of winning this game, but I don't think they can win if Sabonis is in foul trouble and he's limited. I don't think that would be a scenario that would give the Kings a victory.
One of the reasons is, I think Ryan pointed out, one thing is because not only, obviously, he's a very, very good player, but when they go to different defenses, I mean, Sabonis is really the one that can recognize them quicker and do something about it. And really, anyway, to beat his zone, you want the ball inside anyway, and he's a guy who is going to get it and spray and find the shooters. So, he's awfully important. Whether he scores a point or not is just because of how he orchestrates the offense.
Agree 100%, Jerry. Yeah, spot on. And I think the other thing is not falling in love with the three ball if things aren't going wrong, Jerry. I thought Coach Brown, we haven't brought this up at all. Coach Brown drew up, or it felt like they were running set plays out of the gate for Keegan Murray. We talked about that before the Warriors game and it being a little bit of a criticism of this team this year. Do we have to see the exact same thing tomorrow night, guys?
Well, I think Keegan, you want him to come out aggressive, and certainly if he's got the ball, he really needs to look to score. And I think it'd be a good idea to try to get maybe some play sets or emphasize getting the ball to him. And I think equally important would be Harrison Barnes. I mean, I think Harrison in a game like this with the bench so thin, I mean, he really needs to score. And he has a tendency sometimes just to wait for something to happen. He's got to go, and the team maybe has to make something happen for him. Go to him in the post or let him, but look for him to score offensively, score early, get him going early. He and maybe more so than Keegan.
I agree with you. I think the first quarter is crucial for Sacramento tomorrow. They're feeling really good after the Warriors game. The table is set up beautifully. No Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram not at 100%. And I'm really looking for an excellent start from Sacramento. I think if they don't have a good start, I think they're in trouble. I really do. Because I think then you're going to give the Pelicans all that confidence that, hey, we've already beat this team 5 times. Here we are. We're already outplaying them in the first. I just think from Sacramento's perspective, I'm putting a lot of onus on the start of this game tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Well said, Napes. It's been one of the bugaboos all season for the Kings. But conversely, when they start well, like the other night, they play well. And I think part of that's aggression. Don't you guys think? The pick and roll last game, they were getting downhill. We don't always see it.
No, that's exactly what it is. I mean, I think the aggressive defense really converts to offense. I mean, I think you come out
great point
and say we're going to be here till the morning, guys, and you Pelicans better understand that, and then we might even bump you a little bit, hurt your feelings if need be. But that I think that's what what I'll look for right away is how aggressive are you defensively, because I think that will lead to more aggressive offense.
Well, I want to tell you about Blazona Development and their Sunrise Landing in Calusa, and all you need to do is go to CalusaSunrise.com. That's CalusaSunrise.com, and you can check out one of their 6 models with various lot sizes. No Mellorews, no homeowners at Calusa Sunrise, and it is a great connection close to major arteries like I-5 and Highway 20. It is Sunrise Landing, and again, all you need to do is go to CalusaSunrise.com, make an appointment, go check it out. That is CalusaSunrise.com. Sunrise Landing from Blazona Development. So happy to have them here as a sponsor on If You Don't Like That. All right, prediction time. I got to tell you, and thank you very much for the Super Chat donation. We love your support. We appreciate everything. I have a good feeling that the Kings are going to play well tomorrow. I'm a little hesitant to make a prediction because I've been wrong too much. So I don't want to jinx anything. I'm just going to tell you right now that I think the Kings are going to play very well. Is that enough to win? I don't know if it's enough to win, but I do think that we'll be, Ryan, I would be very surprised if we're on 25 hours from now or whenever the game's over talking about the post game and talking about how the Kings were sloppy and, gee, what the hell were they doing? And we didn't like their game plan. Why were they doubling this guy? They got thoroughly outplayed. They couldn't stop. I don't think that's going to be the narrative tomorrow. I think we're going to be talking about the Kings. Hey, they played very well. That's where I think we're at.
Napes, I am 100% with you. I hope this is not the narrative, but we have to mention the referees because how are they going to let them play? Physicality is the Kings to the Kings game.
Yep.
But I don't want to make a prediction, but I don't think the Kings will beat the Kings. How about you, Jerry?
I really do. I feel, honestly, I'm somewhat confident if it's possible for the Kings to win this ball game. And I think it will come down to a lot of factors. I mean, probably offensively, who makes the best percentage of threes. And if the Kings are playing as good a defense as they can, they'll make those threes a little harder. I'm counting on that to make sure McCollum and Trey Murphy don't get a lot of clean looks. And so, I'm figuring on about 108 to 105 win. And to your point about the refs and the refs, they'll have, the best refs, some of the best refs in the world in this game. And the other part of it is, if you're into conspiracy theories, which I have been periodically, that I'm confident the league, if you poll them, would prefer the Sacramento Kings advance over the New Orleans Pelicans.
No question.
No doubt. Here's what I'm going to give you guys one little gold nugget too. The Pelicans are averaging about 8 points less at home against the Kings this season. Maybe it comes into play, maybe it doesn't.
Yep. By the way, Jerry, I'm going to follow up on what you just said. I think that's a different narrative if Zion Williamson's not hurt. Zion Williamson's one of the marquee players in the league. And I think, again, if you believe in that stuff or not, we're just saying, I think the league would love to have Zion Williamson in the postseason. But right now, that's very much in doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's like, the Heat without Jimmy Butler or something. I mean, this is a star league. It's a star-driven league. And so the Kings really, I think, starting to, maybe have the most stars available.
Yep.
So there's that.
And again, the Pelicans have not played well at home this year. Okay, they're basically a 500 team at home. A couple of those are against Sacramento. But, look at that. That's – we talk about the Kings when they were at home this year, and we're like, gee, what is going on with that team? But the Pelicans, think about this. They won 49 games this year, okay? They won 49 games, and yet they were basically a 500 team. I mean, if you look at their last home games, okay, interesting to me that they lost at home to the Lakers. Think about this now. They lost at home to the Spurs. They lost at home to the Magic. They lost at home to Phoenix. They lost at home to Boston. Now, those are good teams. San Antonio, not necessarily. But the last time New Orleans won a home game, you have to go back all the way to March 29th when they beat the Bucks. That's the last time they won a home game.
Wow. That is really interesting. I mean, as you know, Grant, from just being in the building, it's not a home court advantage. That's for sure not. I mean, no excitement brought on and helped by the fans there. So, I think that's part of it. It's hard to explain that kind of difference.
Well, guys, fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be fun tomorrow. The three of us will be here at halftime. Ryan's got the pregame 30 minutes after, and then the postgame show. Jerry, we greatly appreciate all of your support and your participation on all of these shows. Can't thank you enough, so thank you very much.
Well, enjoyed it. Enjoyed talking with you guys and talking Kings basketball. And, man, I'm ready for a little more joy. The joy in my life.
We're just trying to keep you famous in Sacramento and Northern California by having you on so much.
You may have work overtime, but that's okay.
Napes, that's not a problem. I was with them at Bennett's yesterday. Trust me.
Hey, Jerry, take care. Thank you very much.
See you guys.
All right. That's good insight from the one and only Jerry Reynolds. Ryan, I'm really looking forward to this. And, of course, if the Kings win, we're going to be doing wire-to-wire coverage, wall-to-wall coverage in round one against OKC. And I also would end on this note. Tomorrow is a make or break for the season for me. If the Kings lose tomorrow, to me, this has not been a successful season. And if they win, then I'm fine with this season based on everything. So I'm putting a lot of onus on this game tomorrow and how I personally evaluate this entire season.
If they get blown out for a sixth time and it's the same story, it will affect the way. How does it not affect the way you view the season, Grant? But if it's a competitive game, it doesn't really change too much for me and they lose.
Okay. Fair enough. Ryan, good job, buddy. Looking forward to your show 30 minutes prior to tip-off, and then the three of us at halftime and then post-game. Hey, to everyone else, check out the auction. Rhino, that's going to be up for a week, correct?
Yeah, the auctions will be up for a week. Again, if you guys have any questions, so they just went live. I put the link in the chat if you weren't able to get to it. And by the way, Grant, I'd be remiss if we don't thank Max one more time at InVision Web Design. That's right. They are some of the most front edge, cutting edge, and fun people to work with, and darn do they knew their stuff. They do web development, also optimization. Do you have a website already, but you think it could be working a little better? Max and the team will work hand in hand with you and get your website up and going. He has done a tremendous job helping us and with everything since If You Don't Like That has begun.
Well, there it is. There's the link. All right. It's right there on your screen. So take a screenshot of it. Do whatever you have to do. All right.
We'll
if you
put
don't
it
like
back in the chat.
.com/auction/. So it's right there for you.
Or Napes, they can take a picture of that QR code right there. It'll take you right to it. Only 3 people have taken a picture of that. So that'll get you right there as well.
Right up there, right? Okay, take the QR code. So there you have it. All right, and we'll go over this again tomorrow. All right, so if you have any problems, tonight, then let us know and we'll help you. We'll try to walk you through it tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Lots to come tomorrow. We're looking forward to it. I know you are as well. Bye-bye.